Little sister, look. A white snake. He'll shift into a dragon one day and spoil you rotten.
My sister set him into my open hand.
Evelyn, you're too generous. White serpents ascend more often than black ones, and your sister doesn't have your looks or your temperament. By any measure, you're the better match.
My sister's face flickered.
I'm the elder sister. It's only right.
I said nothing. Anyone who looked carefully could see the white snake was barely alive, while the black one had fierce eyes and scales like polished lacquer. My sister knew exactly what she was giving away. In my last life, I'd taken him out of pity. My sister had taken the strong one, black scales, sharp eyes, already choosing her before she'd finished reaching. She'd handed me the leftover, half dead, colorless, barely breathing. I brought him home anyway. 10 years. I spent everything I had. I'd told him once, in the dark, that I wouldn't leave him even if he never shifted. I thought those eyes looking up at me meant something. Then the flood came. He became a dragon overnight, and he pulled my sister out of the water while I went under. He'd been able to take human form for months. He'd heard every word I ever said to him. He simply hadn't thought I was worth answering. Now, staring at those tiny fangs raised at me in contempt, I felt nothing but irony. Crack! I threw him at the stone, swung my pack on, and walked.
Little sister!
My sister scrambled to cup him in her hands.
He's a living creature!
All living things have their time. If he falls today, that's his fate.
The villagers closed in, whispering, cold-blooded, not like Evelyn. Beautiful people have good hearts. My sister told them not to say such things, which naturally drew every eye back to her with fresh sympathy. She always did this, pointed the blade at me, then turned around playing peacemaker with a wounded look, as though she were the one enduring hardship. I smiled.
If you're that kind-hearted, sister, take them both. Go ahead. If he ever ascends, I won't expect a thing.
She had no answer. The crowd had already turned their hopeful eyes back to her. A flash of white light. Everyone froze. A young man in white robes stood where the snake had been, breathtaking. A thread of blood at the corner of his mouth. Little White had shifted into human form. I tightened my grip on the pack straps without thinking. I'd always believed he learned to take human form after I'd nursed him back to health. It turned out he'd known from the start. All those years, he'd watched me get laughed at by everyone for carrying a snake that couldn't shift, never lifted a finger, and now, in his weakest moment, he'd forced the transformation for my sister's sake.
I'll take responsibility.
My sister changed her tone immediately. If he could shift, ascension wasn't far off. The whole crowd was struck silent by the sight of him, that impossible face.
Little sister, since you said you didn't want him and you wouldn't hear me out, I suppose I have no choice but to take him home.
Evelyn, you don't owe anyone an explanation. She's the one who gave him to you. If she dare take it back, we'll all lose respect for her.
Oh, please.
My sister colored slightly.
My sister isn't that kind of person.
I looked at Little White, cold and steady. He looked back at me through the crowd. This frantic transformation, this look in his eyes that didn't belong to a first meeting. I understood. He'd been reborn too. He watched me turn and walk away without a shred of hesitation. Something flashed in his eyes. Confusion, then surprise. The whole village buzzed with talk of how I'd let the most remarkable serpent in the world slip through my fingers. His divine bearing made believers of everyone. Everyone believed he would ascend to become a dragon. They mocked my blind stupidity. They praised my sister's karma for her kind heart. Everyone assumed I'd come crawling back, that I'd start fawning over him soon enough. But I went home and didn't look at him once. Eventually, the next time we passed each other, a hand caught my wrist. I yanked back. He only held on tighter. He stared at me with a furrowed brow and said nothing. That look was a question, and underneath it, something like displeasure. Was he asking why I wasn't giving him the same attention as before? Did he genuinely not know? I couldn't pull free. I pushed at his hand instead, bit by bit, prying his grip from my wrist. Then I shook out my aching hand and went back to my room, muttering the whole way. He looked down at his own hand, then back toward where I'd gone. A faint flush crept into the corners of his eyes. When someone has favored you for a long time, Perhaps that favor starts to feel like something owed. The day I stopped, he'd probably think I was the one in the wrong. All those years in my last life, dragging him everywhere with me, through rain and wind. I'd built something I'd thought was real. To cut it off so suddenly, my chest still ached with it, whether I wanted it to or not. But that night, getting up to find water, I heard voices murmuring from the corner room.
My lord, if you feel you owe something to the second young lady, perhaps you could serve as her bonded companion instead?
I looked through the gap in the door. Little White stood with his hands clasped behind his back, white robes, back to me. So perfectly formed, he didn't seem to belong to this world. When he spoke, even his voice was like struck silver.
Given that I've been given another life, I naturally mean to make amends for my regrets.
The figure kneeling behind him, I couldn't see his face.
But didn't your elder brother claim the first young lady first? And?
Little White turned his head. I saw the cold light in his eyes catch something it had no business holding. Something burning and dangerous.
I came into this life for her. Nothing will stop me from standing at her side. Not even my brother. I will not give one step.
I'd heard enough. I turned to leave. 2 steps out, I heard the kneeling figure ask,
"Why you are so devoted to a mortal woman?"
The moonlight softened Little White's eyes.
At Dragon's Rest Cove when I fell. I will never forget it. She lifted me in both hands and kept watch over me for 49 days. Without her, I would have failed my tribulation. I'd have dissolved into nothing but old bone.
Dragon's Rest Cove. I stopped dead. My hands had started trembling. That was where I'd once saved a small white snake. I'd kept vigil over him for 49 days. Only when he started to recover did I shoulder my herb basket and walk back to the village. I'd never told a single soul. So that snake and Little White, they were the same creature. I squeezed my fist shut. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Little White, you absolute fool. I had no intention of letting him know I knew. This life, I had other things to pursue. I went out to gather herbs far less than I used to. Most of my days I spent tucked away in my room, reading. Until the annual Blossom Festival, when my sister physically dragged me out of the house.
It's the Blossom Festival. If you don't come, you might not get the blessing of the flower goddess this year.
The flower goddess. Her blessing. I glanced back at my thoroughly dog-eared copy of the old histories, considered for a moment, and nodded.
Your sister has prepared an outfit for you. Throw out all those rough old rags. You need to dress properly for the Blossom Festival.
She pressed a bag into my hands and went off. The beautiful outfit turned out to be a garish thing. Red flowers clashing violently with green leaves. When I went to find something else, every other piece of clothing I owned was gone. That shade of red and that shade of green, together made someone like me, already unremarkable, look even worse. I'd been reading all day and I was hungry. With no other choice, I put on the awful thing and went out to find food. The moment I stepped outside, I ran straight into my sister, drifting through the festival in gauzy layers with a group of her friends. When she saw me, the whole group froze.
Oh gods, she doesn't think that looks good. She doesn't think that looks good, does she? She's trying so hard to match the festival theme, I'll give her that. But a weed dressed up is still a weed. Is she actually trying to compete with Evelyn for Belle of the Festival? I mean, she did succeed. Just as the village fool, the fabric Evelyn's wearing. That white serpent made that with some kind of enchantment. And this one shows up in a floral sack. Everyone, please.
My sister floated forward in her gauzy robes, sweet perfume ahead of her.